let's try this again. So what this is going to be about is just stuff I picked up. Alright, we're going to start off with some of the creatures, and we'll look at some of the generic stuff that I got that was good, and then we'll look at some of the combos that I wanted to build up. So let's just go over here. So we'll start off with Archery and Ifnir. I ran him in Anya Falcon Wrath for his cycle and discard effect to put -1 counters on each creature that my opponent's controlled. That's generically what he's good for. Anything that cycles, anything that discards. If you did like a Yawgmoth Thran Physician, you could put him in there so you can proliferate those counters on top of the counters the Yawgmoth's already putting out. Anything with proliferate, he's going to be great in. He's a great budget, $1.50. You can probably pick him up for like 75 cents. Next one would be Prime Speaker Vanifair. So she's great for Simic, and I'm putting her in Yarg the Desecrated because I want to have those sack outlets available. And we'll get to the main thing that I'm going to be sacking with her in a minute. But you sack another creature, search your library for a creature card, converting mana cost 1, and then equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converting mana cost, and put it on the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. And of course she's tapped. But if you can untap her, which we'll get to in a minute, you can do it multiple times. She's good in general. I've run her in a couple decks before. As far as budget goes, she's great. There's a lot more expensive options that you can do. But for this, like Phyrexian Processor, Phyrexian Rebirth, things like that. But for what she is, the cost she is, her money cost, I mean, she's great. The next one that would feed into her would be Ravaging or Scavenging Ghoul here. So this guy's pretty cool. I think he's a little bit underappreciated. I picked him up because of how you can bring him back in. So at the beginning of each turn, put a corpse counter Scavenging Ghoul for each creature put into the graveyard that turn. Then 0, remove a corpse counter from Scavenging Ghoul to regenerate it. I mean, I think you can see where this is going, right? You can sack something, put a counter on him, sack him, then bring him back, sack something else, put a counter on him, bring him back, keep going back and forth, right? And with him being a 4 cost, you're looking at Vanifair, most of your good stuff's going to be at 5. So you're sacking Ghoul for his 4, then you're adding 1 on that for 5 with Vanifair. So you're going to go find something for 5. I mean, what if you go find Ifnir, put him in. Anything's really good. You can, most of the stuff that you want to get is going to be in the 5-drop category. I mean, it's restrictive with the +1, but if you can get stuff out that's at 4, you're good to go. And of course, you can build up to getting the Scavenging Ghoul out. You can sack something and bring him in. Another great thing about him is when you look on the page for like the Gatherer page where they've FAQ'd the text, his ability will be he'll get counters even if he's not on the battlefield. As far as whenever you're getting ready to play him, if something died before and you play him, you'll get the counters just because something died already. So he doesn't have to be on there when something dies to get the counter. If he comes on, something has already died, he'll get that counter. So you can immediately start cycling him out, sacking him up. So that's great because more than likely, if you don't have him, you're working up to him. You're doing your Vanifair on a smaller creature. You're going to go get him. He's coming in. You sack him. You'll bring him back in, and then you go get something bigger. Talking about something bigger. Woodfall Promise. This is another good budget one, right? So I got him because I'm building Yarok and I'm going for ETB effects. Now he's pretty mana intensive at 8, but you can build up to it. There's ways to cheat him out. But more than likely, by the time you bring him out, you're probably going to need him. But his big thing is, trample. When he enters the battlefield, destroy target non-creature permanent. Looking at, getting that on double. And then he has persist, so that when he dies, if he had no -1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under control with a -1 counter on it. So you're looking at that recursion off of Prime Speaker Vanifair, so you can get something big. So my thoughts were, all right, well, he's 8. sack him for 9, go get like, a big Eldrazi at 9, or some other big creature at 9. You can work your way up with it, and then he'll just come back on. No big deal, right? It seems a little bit steep, but if you're getting that double ETB trigger, or just the ETB trigger in general, and you're able to get rid of artifacts, you're able to get rid of enchantments, I mean, that's okay. It's alright. Plus, you're getting a beater out there. So if you're on budget and you want creatures and you want that removal on your creatures, why not? Alright, so a couple other things I was looking at here. Some of these I've already had, and I've got them on here just for examples. But let's look at the sorceries real quick here. Alright. So something I thought was pretty cool was, where is it at? Genesis Wave. So with this one, you're able to cheat stuff out. You can dump your mana into it. So reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of permanent cards that convert mana cost extra or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way or on the battlefield into your graveyard. If you can go for some kind of fixing for what you're going to have on top of it, this card's fantastic. Even if it's not, and you just dump 6 mana into that X, so you're chunking out 9, you're probably going to hit something that's either good or that's worthwhile. And 6 mana into something big, a big spell like this, it's not a big deal because you're cheating it out. And if you don't need it, you just chunk it into your graveyard. A lot of people want to play out of the graveyard like that. Maybe you chunk something bigger into your graveyard and you're able to reanimate it. It's pretty decent. I'm going to assume a lot of people already know about this one because it's just a good card in general. So then I wanted to pick some neat stuff up for blue. So I went for Merchant Scroll. For a 2-drop sorcery, search your library for a blue instant card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Now what's great about this, I don't know how much of the other video you watched, is that you can find an instant and throw it on for your Isochron Scepter if you're working up to that, or if you just need to get a blue instant. There's tons of them that you're going to want to get, right? So for a 2-drop and at the price value of it at around $5, maybe even $4, I've seen some of them for $2 if they're real beat up. It's a fantastic card, especially in blue. You already have all kinds of tutors, and this is just another one to put on top of it. Then we'll look at some mana fixing here, which is Channel the Suns. So I picked up a channel which is banned. I just wanted to have the card, and when I did a look for it, I found this, right, which is Channel the Suns, and I've never seen this one before. It's a 5th Dawn card. Super budget at 50 cents, maybe 25. Again, a lot of these are going to be TCG player averages, so you can find them probably for cheaper at your local game store, card shop, especially if they're beat up like the ones I got. I got one that's beat up pretty good for 10 cents. Anyway, so it's a 4-drop, and you add one of each color to your mana pool for 4. So initially it's like, alright, that's not that great. I'm just getting 1 extra out of it. But the way I'm seeing it is, you're getting your color fixing out of it. So you're getting those 5 right up front. All 5 colors right up front. Most of the time, whenever I need color fixing like that in a 5-color deck, I probably don't have but maybe colorless from talismans, or the talismans I do have aren't in the right colors that I need to get something out with that 5 cost. So I can just tap those talismans, or I can tap that, mana crypt or whatever to dump into that 3 colorless, and then tap a green, and boom, I've got my color fixing right off the bat. And to me, it's like a souped up version of Metamorphosis, except you don't get the card draw. And I'm a big fan of Metamorphosis because of the color fixing. So this one was a pretty exciting little find that I found. Kudos to you if you already knew about it, or if it's just garbage, and I don't see that it's garbage, but I think it's pretty great. Let's go check out artifacts here. So some of these I'm going to talk about for examples later on when I start talking into some of the combos. But something I found that I thought was pretty neat was Soulnet. So when a creature is put into a graveyard from play, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, you gain 1 life. If you're going into infinite mana combos, Kingdom Bonder's Prodigy and Basalt Monolith, or however you're getting it, Rings of Brides or Basalt Monolith, Grim Tutor or Grim Monolith, Rings of Bright Earth, whatever. Whenever you're sacking a massive amount of creatures, right? If you've built up to make infinite tokens and you have infinite mana on top of that, which you probably do because you've run some kind of combo in your deck, then why not throw this Soul Net in here? Sling it out, sack a whole bunch of creatures, sack 10,000 of them, and then pay 10,000 of infinite mana. Boom, there's all your life. Congratulations, this 25-cent card just netted you all the life you need. Even if you're not doing that and you have the mana to spare and you're going into sacrifice, or if you're expecting your creatures to die, you can still net life off of them, which will get triggers. I could see this being slotted into a Heliod deck with the Heliod and the Walker combo. That's escaping me at the moment. So you can generate just a ton of tokens on that guy from all the life that you gain, and then just sling it at somebody. Any triggers that's coming off life, you could use that as part of some kind of infinite life combo. You could damage your opponents with it. I think it's pretty neat for what it is. It's a pretty budget card. I think it can do a lot. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of 2 and less artifacts. Obviously the zeros, but stuff that's not really that prevalent, not that expensive money wise. The next one I found, which was pretty cool, was Library of Ling. So this one is skip your discard phase. It's specifically worded like that. Technically you could say that it's no maximum hand size, but it's worded to where it is you skip your discard phase. There are some things that will make you do something during your discard phase. There's combos that play off you having to discard. There's combos that don't want you to have to discard, and that this would help you get around some of that stuff. The second part of this is when a spell or effect forces you to discard a card. You may instead discard that card to the top of your library. Now take a note that this doesn't have anything to do with mill. So if you're milling cards off the top, it's not going to really do anything for you. But if you are discarding cards from any number of red spells, if you have to discard cards to get madness off of it, and you still want that card, then you can throw it on top, right? Obviously, I'd have to look into how that would affect the madness, because you technically discard the madness card. It does go to the madness zone, then it goes into your graveyard. But I'm wondering if, because you've discarded it, it does go to the madness zone, but it was technically discarded, then it hits the graveyard. I'm thinking it may actually be able to just go put on top of the library. That's pretty crazy if that's the case, because this right here would make Anya just insane. It would be a crazy storm combo. So that's something I was thinking about looking into. Plus I just wanted to get it because it's cool to have something like this to where it's not just you don't have no maximum hand size and that's it, or you just have the lands. This is another option to increasing the viability of the hand that you get if it's large. Again, it's another cheap one. There's all kinds of different versions you can find. That's the average price. I picked mine up for like $1.75, and it was in pretty good condition. Let's see here. Oh yeah. So the old ginger got me with this one. I watched a couple videos on a lot of these, flip cards from Ixalan, and this is one of the coolest ones I thought. Every time that it's seen play, in every game that I've played against it, it's fantastic. So not only will it come in as an artifact for 2, and you can tap 3 to search your library for basic land, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your library, but whenever you flip it, right, you get it as a land itself, which is Spires of Araska. Add a color to your mana pool, but the big thing is tap it, untap attacking creature an opponent controls, and remove it from combat. That's huge. If you're not in white and there's no way to mitigate combat or prevent combat damage, things like that, or you want to have more control over the board, this is a great card for that. I've considered putting my black deck, but that's not really my play style. But it's a really neat little card. There's a lot that you can do with this. It's really easy to flip. So if you look at it, it kind of can do it itself. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 7 or more lands, transform it. With this, it allows you to search up those lands on 3. So you have, pretty much a search spell on a stick, and you're doing this every turn until you ramp up to that 7. Well, not really ramping, but you're drawing up where you can get to that 7 and then flip it. I mean, it's a great card. I'm a big fan of this one. It can be got for pretty cheap too. It's sitting around $4 right now, and you can find the beat up copy for pretty cheap, I think. And then the last one of the generic things that I found will be the enchantments. And let's see here. Yes. So this guy, oh man, this is a gem. I like this card a lot, and I'm not sure I want to put it yet, but it's great. So instill energy, 1 green, enchant creature not affected by certain sickness, haste. 0, untap enchanted creature. Use this ability only during your turn and only once each turn. Alright, so the insanity that comes with this, using it on mana dorks, is the best part of this. I mean, there's other things too. I mean, straight up, putting it on Prime Speaker. Going ahead, and as soon as Prime Speaker comes out, throw your instill energy on it. Prime Speaker does its thing. Sacks a creature, whatever creature it is. Sack it. Get Savage Goal. Sack that. Go get your Ifnir. Prime Speaker Vanifair. Untap her. Sack Ifnir. Go get something for 6. Right? Or something else. Bring your stuff out. So you're doing it twice. Throwing it on Bloom Tender. Oh man. The amount of ramp that you're getting out of that is fantastic. You throw your Bloom Tender out for 2. Right, great, no big deal. Throw your instill energy on Bloom Tender. Give her haste. Tap her, she adds 3. You're getting that back. Plus, you're getting it for the colors of permanents that you control. So if you're doing a 3-color deck, you're getting 3. If you're doing 4, you're getting 4. So on, right? Then, with that 0 from instill energy, just untap her again, and then tap her another time, and you're netting another 3 mana, or you're netting another 4 mana, or you're netting another 5 mana. So I mean, you think about it like this: if you're running her in a 5-color deck, right? Obviously, you want to do 3 at minimum to really get something out of her. But you're running a 5-color deck, right? Bring her in. You've invested 3 of that. You get 2. You get 3. You get 2 extra right off of that. You paid for it. You tap her again. You're netting 7 mana off of that. Just a straight up 3 investment. Easy peasy. Even if you're doing 3 colors, that's still great. You're netting 3 extra off of her the first turn she comes out. Because I'll guarantee you, man, as soon as she comes out, if she lists a last entire turn, that's amazing. She's target number 1. I know every time I've played her, she's just got. Right? So I have to play her when I can, haste her up and use her. Otherwise, she's useless because she's such a threat. Just for you and your ramp capabilities. If you're able to throw her out in a 3-color and put her out turn 2, maybe even turn 3, for however, and you're able to tap for that 3 and you ramp up and you get an additional 3 on that turn 3 on top of having her, that's fantastic. You go so hard with that. I mean, you can do this for so many things, and it's so cheap. This is $1.81 for that cheap one. I think there's like a 5th edition or maybe a 4th. I'm not sure which one I got, but it's a really old one, and it was I think like $1.10, something like that. It wasn't even that bad condition. It was pretty good. Let's see. So then we got all that cool stuff going, but I want to move into what the real big focus of this thing is, right? The hack that I found, and it all has to do with lands, right? So I've been trying to figure out some different options so that everybody could do land destruction in some type of way. Everybody has access to it, because a lot of people they realize that it's more of a necessity, right? The further they get into the game and the more they play, the more they go from a casual environment, the more power they get into it. They realize that they need to have some more land destruction. So I found a couple of different things, but for this one it's mainly going to be black and some blue. So the big one, and the fingernail thing, or whatever it's called, thumbnail, is for this card, Magical Hack. This is really what kicks it off. So this thing, it says, for 1 blue at instant speed, change the text of target permanent or spell by replacing all instances of one basic land type with another. The example it gives is for Swamp Walk, Planeswalk, etc. I mean, this is great for land walk, right? But what you really wind up doing is you start going, my first thoughts were, well, what about these very specific mass land destructions? So the first one I went to was Acid Rain, because I played that a lot when I was a kid. Now this is on the reserve list, right? Because it deals with forests, and green players don't like their stuff getting blown up. So I guess that's why they've never reprinted it. But you can get it for cheaper than $133. I think I picked up a copy for like $40-some. It was heavily played. It was beat up, but still, for what it is, it's great. So what you have here is you throw it down for 4, destroy a forest and play. Well, what if they don't have forest? What if they've got plains or whatever? Sure, fine. Then throw out Magical Hack and change it from forest to all plains in play. Right? You can even go down to Flash Fires. Right? Destroy all plains. You can switch that up because of Magical Hack. Right? That's a simple, dirty combo. But if you need specific and you have access to that spell, then you're good to go. Right? You can do that same thing with Tsunami. So these are the 3 big ones, because I figure if you're playing in green, you're probably going to be playing either mono green, right? Or you're going to be playing with blue in Simic. So you're going to have the option to have Tsunami and Magical Hack, right? And then, of course, the Acid Rain will come with the blue. And then if you really want to get nasty and play Animar colors, then you got the red. So you've got green, red, blue, which I think is probably one of the better combinations for getting rid of lands, if that's what you're going for. But you have the versatility. You're packing right off the bat, 3 mass land destruction cards, right? With the option, if you can work into that combo, which you can with tutors, right? You just straight tutor with Merchant Scroll, tutor free Magical Hack. I mean, come on. And if you really want to get in the weeds with it, why not stick it onto an Isochron Scepter? That way you can keep changing it. There's so many things that you can change with that, but changing the keyword. Another one was Life Tap, right? 2 blue enchantment, so it stays around. When any forest is tapped for any forest target opponent controls becomes tapped to gain a life. If you can throw that out there, you can throw out Magical Hack. You can change that forest to keyword swamp, plains, whatever, mountain. You get the idea, right? So I think that's a pretty neat little thing that you can do. Obviously, there's ways to untap your Isochron Scepter. If you're playing something like this, you're going to be familiar with all the combos that you need to make this work multiple times to get the most out of it that you want. Even if somebody does something that's like a Farseek, which is a 2-drop, search your library for a forest, plains, mountain, things like that. When they do that, they declare the target. Then you can say, all right, what's your target? And they say, all right, I'm going to go for a plains. Like, all right, cool. I'm going to change that target to swamp. And they're not playing swamps. They can't find it. They've just burnt a spell. You essentially have countered their spell by changing that target. Right? I mean, it's pretty nasty if you think about it. I think it has a little bit more. I mean, you can say, all right, counter spells king. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can counter stuff. But at the same time, I think you get more utility out of this, because not only are you shutting certain things down, you can use it for your advantage too in certain situations. Right? So going with the land destructions, I picked up Armageddon, things like that. Then we've got, some more instances. So this is where some really neat stuff happens. So we've got Mana Short, going into more blue. Tap all in and start player controls and empty his or her mana pool. So for 3 at an instant speed, right, going into their turn, you could be like, all right, cool, I'll just mana short you for the turn. Tap all your lands. Say, all right, cool. Well, I'll just tap my lands in response, add it to my mana pool. All right, it's great, but mana short will just clear those out. That's going to clear out the mana pool from artifacts, creature abilities, everything. I mean, for a 91-cent card at instant speed, this is pretty much an extra turn, in my opinion, right? Obviously, you know, there's abilities and things like that, but if you're putting this in a deck with control, you've already controlled it enough to where you're not really worried about anything else except for the player being able to respond. And if you can sit here and throw this out and have recursion for it, and you probably can because you're in blue, then you've locked up the game and you pretty much have a 3-drop extra turn spell. You know, they can draw, sure, but unless they have something like Force Will where they can play it without paying its mana cost, then you've locked them up. It's a pretty hard lock, from what I can tell. It's not permanent, but you can make it permanent. I'm sure you can find ways to copy it for other players. Obviously, you can bring it back. You can throw it on top of your library. But yeah, this one was a pretty neat little budget find, I thought, especially if you're going for a some kind of control. And you can find it for even cheaper than that, 50 cents maybe. Oh yeah, here we go. It's a simulacrum. So on the Gather page, they define this as life gain. So what it says is all damage done to you so far this turn is instead retroactively applied to target creature you control. Further damage this turn is treated normally. So they classify it as a life gain spell, right? Which all it's really doing is redirecting that damage to another creature. Somebody hits you with 30 damage from a burn spell, right? Or they're stacking it up on you and you're just about to die, just simulacrum that. The damage that you have attained for that turn comes back as life to you, and then it goes onto the creature instead. So because it gives it that life gain keyword in the Gatherer, it's counted as gaining life because you're getting it back. It's pretty wild, I thought. And for 20 cents, man, I'm sure you could find all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do with this. I thought it was pretty neat because it's at instant speed. You know, that's last of the line. It can really pull you out of some things, I thought. Especially just put it onto something that's a chump block or something. You're golden. Alright. So we've covered all those combos. So the last combo that I really wanted to look at was one I found for mono black. So for a while I've been wanting to turn my mono black into an ultimate deck, something that's a toolbox that can handle anything. And the one thing that I was missing from it that I found in some cases I needed was land destruction. So I mean, yeah, it's oppressive enough as it is, but I was like, I just wanted to see if I could do it. So I think I figured it out. So what I would do would be I would go for a Blanket of Night. So each mana producing land is a swamp in addition to its normal land types, right? It's going to stay out there, which obviously it can help you ramp with like Cabal Coffers, things like that, but it shuts down most of your opponent's stuff. As far as if there's a problem with them having swamps, they still get their regular type too, but they are classified as swamps. You could also throw out there a Night Creep at instant speed, and I'm looking at this because it's only 2, and until in a turn all creatures become black and all lands become swamps. So those lands run away from being whatever lands they are, and now they're just swamps. So that shuts down pretty good. And what's great about this is if you can stick it on Isochron Scepter, you can soft lock them on some of that. I mean, they can use the swamps as colorless, but you can soft lock them into just having swamps. It also benefits you if you're using Cabal Coffers or something like that. But where it really gets funny is, let's say I throw out Night Creep, right? Well, then I go over into this bell over here, Cormus Bell. All swamps are 1/1 creatures that are still lands. This is going to be you too, right? But I mean, you're playing black. You have to win at all costs. So you throw your Chroma spell out there so that all swamps are 1/1 creatures that are still lands. Right? Then you just go ahead and Nightmare Unmask unmaking everything. And just exile all creatures with power greater than or less than, right? And with this, they're going to be 1/1s. You can just go ahead and exile each creature with power less than the number of cards in your hand. So, easy peasy, boom. Exile all those lands. Mass lands, by the way. Everyone's lands. Your lands included. But if you're playing this and you're to the point to where you have to do this, then something's gone wrong, or you have to slow the game down a little bit, which is the point of land destruction. It isn't to be malicious, right? It's to keep things in check and keep them from running out of control. I mean, you could also Toxic Deluge it if you needed to, because you can throw it out there for 3. You can throw your life on it. If you have your stuff that you want to keep, if you have a way to buff up your swamps, right, because they'll become black, then you can give all black creatures 1/1. You know, things like that. Who knows what you want to do. But there's ways around it. But the point is, you're making their lands into swamps. Turning their swamps into 1/1 creatures. And then taking those lands and exiling them. Or just killing them off. It's beautiful. It's easy to pull off, too. Like, incredibly easy to pull off. Which is kind of funny. But yeah, that was my big thing for it, right? That's what I really wanted to get into. Now, I want to talk about the land destruction thing. I probably should make a whole other video about this. Besides from all the stuff that I picked up, like some of this I've already had, but a lot of it I've already picked up. I picked up today, and I just wanted to show it to you because I thought it was cool, especially the magical hack thing. It's a pretty neat card in itself. I can see a lot of viability for it, just in general. Oh, before we do that, let me talk about Isochron Scepter real quick. So, I'm starting to think that, in my opinion, right, everybody should run Isochron Scepter in their deck. I don't care what you run. I don't care what color it is. I think you should run Isochron Scepter. I am sure, if you're treating your mana curve correctly, that you have 2-in-1 drop instant spells that you can play. I mean, alright, so I know this is coming from somebody that plays, Dark Ritual, and obviously the Night Creep, things like that. But I think there's other things that you can do at 2 instant speed that you could stick on the Isochron Scepter. And I'm pretty sure, especially if you get to the higher level and you're going into tutors, that you can find things to work with Isochron Scepter. So I think it should be an auto-include, and I'm going to start buying up way more copies of this so I can start auto-including it, just so I can pull stuff off like, the Night Creeps and, the Dark Rituals. It's not just for, blue. Obviously, I picked this up because that's the first choice it's for. But if you're doing red, man, and you've got a shock that you want to throw out there, or there's like some kind of trample, why not? Any kind of spell that's a 1-drop or a 2-drop, that's, if you go for card draw, if you are discarding a card and drawing another one, and it's a 2-drop, that's great. You can keep doing that and cycling it, and you got Isochron Scepter with it. It's kind of like, as far as like being able to keep playing stuff like that, it's kind of like the Arcane and splicing with the Arcanes, which I've been looking into. Once I finish up doing a little bit more research on it and figuring out how I want to do it, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But there's so many different things that you can use that for, just in general. But right, so as far as land destruction goes, I get why nobody likes it. Yeah, that's cool. It seems like it's bad, but at the same time, there comes a point to where you start playing the game people you're playing with, and yourself included, can go get things too fast, and there's not enough interaction to keep up with the pace that you're going. And whenever your ramp is fixed well enough, and your mana is fixed well enough, and you're able to cheat things out fast enough, then you need to have land destruction to keep things regulated. There's only so many times you can cycle an exile spell back and in. There's only so many times that you can board wipe something before it all comes back in. I mean, personally for me, there's only like one or two decks that actually do some land destruction in. And it does get cheesy, right? Because that's what it is. It's cheesy. But at the same time, I can see where if someone else was doing the same thing, it would keep what I was doing in check. And then there are times whenever land destruction needs to happen to keep some things in check. Because you think about it like this, slowing the game down, right, by doing a mass land destruction, right, or doing a single target land destruction, like cycling out scrap or whatever. I mean, you can keep some things in check. You can get rid of some legendary lands. You can just straight up stop a player who's getting ready to combo off, right? What is worse than slowing it? I mean, what's worse than having unlimited tokens, right? Or having a way to put out unlimited mana. If you can slow it down before and be able to deal with it when it happens, then that's better than letting it just go on and being unregulated and doing whatever it wants. And another thing too is, why not have enough recursion, right? So a lot of people don't have enough recursion for their graveyards. I'm not talking about like exiling graveyards or anything like that. I mean, that happens. What I'm talking about is, you should plan for that mass land destruction, right? You should plan for the mass permanents, dying, board wipes and things like that. If something gets chunked into your graveyard, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I mean, obviously, unless it gets exiled and you can't do anything about it. But why not put in some ways to get that graveyard back? There's enough mill out there from people doing, damage and things like that, rogues. There's enough straight you playing cards and discarding them just so you can, reach your game plan or exile them. But, something that you could do, especially if you're anticipating there being land destruction, which I think everyone should, because it is a way to slow down the game, and I think more people should play it. Look at something like Feldon's Cane, right? This would be another auto include that I would start putting into decks. It's a 1-drop. It takes up one spot. You tap it at instant speed, remove it from the game, but shuffle your graveyard into your library. I mean, it's priceless. I've been running this for the past, 6 months or so, and man, it's fantastic. Because there's so many times when you sit there and you're playing, and you've got a stack, right? And somebody wants to exile your graveyard, your entire graveyard, but you have this. You can get rid of that, the Feldon's Cane, and just shuffle it back in response. You can sit here and, if you're getting milled out, you can just shuffle it back in. If all your lands are destroyed, right? Let's say you have 12 lands out, and they all just get wiped somehow. Or you're sacking your own lands, just Feldon's Cane it back into your library. Then you can go get them again. If you're having a hard time getting graveyard recursion, if you're having a hard time getting stuff to play because everything is hitting the graveyard, spend 50 cents, get Feldon's Cane, make sure you have it at some point or a way to go get it, play it, and then use it whenever you need to. If somebody targets Feldon's Cane, activate its ability. Go ahead and pop that graveyard into your library. You can do the same thing with Elixir of Immortality. So Elixir of Immortality will be a little bit more expensive as far as mana cost goes. But what you're getting in return is you're able to put Elixir of Immortality back into your library with your graveyard. And you're gaining life. I'm not sure how many people actually use this on the regular. I haven't really seen that many people. I don't really play with a lot of people, besides myself, that use this one. But for 1, you get this artifact. And for 2, in tap, you gain 5 life and then shuffle Elixir of Immortality in your graveyard into your library. You could do that, and get it back out again. You could tutor for it again if you needed to. If you're mulching a lot of stuff, it's going to be great. If you need the life gain off of it, it's going to be great. That 5 life has gained me so much, so many times. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, these are cheap cards. They're easy to slot in. If you build a skeleton of a deck before you start putting your good stuff in, include these, you're not going to worry about it, and it's going to come into play a lot more than you think. I mean, just think about it. If you're playing something like, is it blue and red, and you don't have a lot of graveyard recursion for your spells and your spell slinging, you're going to want one of these to get that stuff back in your deck so you can tutor for it again, right? Those spells that you already played, or you can get those board wipes back at some point, right? You can increase your deck size if you need to, if you're getting milled out. That stops somebody that's milling you dead in their tracks. So I'm a big fan of these things, and I think more people should put them into their deck. And I think that if people did that, then you would have more of that, land destruction. You could slow people down, but at the same time, you're not locking them out from the game, because I see that there's a fine line between controlling what's happening on the board from getting way out of control, and that line between doing that and between being fair and just shutting them out, saying, all right, you're gone, you're done. So you don't want to just do that, but at the same time, it's not up to it's up to the player to be able to get that stuff back. And as far as, like, if you're in green, then there are tons of ways to get stuff back. You got Reclaim, that lets you put stuff back into your hand from your graveyard, just any card, right? You could do Ancient Greed Warden. That's a new one. It's a big guy, and he lets you play lands from your graveyard. You do Rumak Excavator. He'll let you play lands from your graveyard. But if you're not just specifically looking for that, if you're not in green, then this is a good way to get that stuff back into your library and back into your hand at some point, especially if you're running heavy tutors. That's why I started running it, so I could start playing my tutors 2 or 3 times a game, right? I'd sit there and burn a tutor, go get something I need, but I still need more answers, right? So as soon as I chunk it in there, I might have 3 cards in there. I'll shuffle it back in and try to get them again, right? Because not everybody's going to be able to play like a Yawgmoth's Will or something like that. But I mean, that's it. That's all I have to say about land destruction. I hope you found that pretty interesting, at least. And I hope you guys like some of these cards that I found, some of these little combos. If you see a crazy combo out of this, if you have something that uses these already and shoot me a message, let me know, because I'm interested. To me, a lot of this stuff is obscure. I didn't know about it until I just started looking at cards, right? I just started looking at Alpha, because sometimes it's just fun just to look at sets and see what's in the sets. So I started with Alpha and just started looking at it and see what's in it. And that's where I found a lot of these. A lot of the older ones, right? Like Magical Hack. And I was really impressed. But until then, that's it, man.